Okay, welcome back. This is part number 2. We're just now cleaning off our beater. I was talking about what happens if you don't own a KitchenAid and you don't own a hand mixer. Well, hand mixers, you can easily go out and buy them. Walmart, Target, all carry KitchenAid mixer. Well, they all carry the KitchenAid stand mixers, but they also carry the KitchenAid hand mixers. They carry the generic hand mixers, and eventually I will show you I have multiple hand mixers. They're really good to have in the kitchen, especially if you're just going to do a little bit of baking and not maybe so heavy baking. These are more of an investment piece. They're designed to be a workhorse. If you don't have a hand mixer, a stand mixer, or a hand mixer, you can go back to the olden days and actually do it by hand. It's going to take you longer, and the more flour that a recipe calls for, the harder it's going to be to stir by hand. But when my great-grandmother was alive, she didn't have the money to buy any type of mixers. The mixers back then were very expensive. It wasn't until my great-grandmother was probably well into her 60s that my grandmother was able to afford her hand mixer and stand mixer for her. So, and I unfortunately don't have those. Those probably got sold a long time ago. I was fortunate enough to meet my grandmother's mother, so she would be my maternal great-grandmother, was alive for a short period of my life. But it's always nice to do. So, we're almost at the end of our chocolate chip cookies. Now we're going to add our chocolate chips. Now, the recipe calls for, let's see, 2 cups. Well, 2 cups is 12 ounces. And this is an 11.5 ounce bag, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but on the bag it'll tell you what the ounces are. So you're going to add the whole entire bag. I am not going to use these because these are actually old and are showing their age, so I'm going to get rid of those. And I'm going to use this bag. And you can buy chocolate chips when they're on sale. They do last quite a while. Sometimes you'll get chocolate chips that'll start to turn, and they'll turn a really funky off color. Are they good to eat? Well, they're going to have an older flavor, and I will tell you, you don't have to throw them out and waste them. You can actually melt them, and you won't really know the difference that they're an older chocolate chip. But in baking, always try to use fresh. So now that my chocolate chips are in the bowl, I'm not going to put the mixer on. We're done with the mixer. Actually, I'm going to move the bowl off, and I'm going to put the bowl right there. And I'm going to add some walnuts. Now, these are shelled walnuts. You can get chopped walnuts. They come whole, shelled. Whole walnuts are walnuts that are in their shell. You don't really want to get those unless you have a lot of time to take them out of the shell, bake them a little bit, and then chop them. So I always try to get shelled walnuts. You can get them already chopped. I will tell you, chopped walnuts, anything that is already chopped, are going to be more expensive. So you'll save in the long run buying shelled walnuts. There are several ways to do this. You can do this in the food processor pulse, and we'll talk more about food processors later. Around the holidays, I found out having a Costco membership pays for itself, and I use walnuts in a lot of recipes. So I got a big bag when it was on sale. This bag was about $13. But this will make multiple recipes, and it's good to have these. But I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use an older bag. And nuts will go bad the longer they sit around. I'm going to actually do this part. And I'm going to be off camera for 1 second because I need to grab something on this side. No, actually, I need to figure out where my rolling pin is. Oh, I know where my rolling pin is. This is what they call a rolling pin, and this is my fancy rolling pin, and we'll get into rolling pins and what they're used for. But if you have shelled half walnuts, what you can do is just gently tap them, and what you're doing is you're actually going to break them up. Obviously, don't open the bag, or make sure that the bag is sealed. Otherwise, when you do this, you'll have walnuts all over the place. And you don't want to beat the bag really hard. But I find out by doing this, we're just going to do this a little bit more. We're not going to do that more. Let's see how well I did. Here. There we go. Let's see how this came out. Okay, you still have some big pieces, but I'm going to actually put some of these in my hand. They didn't break all the way. You will have some big pieces, but you'll notice you have smaller pieces. And that's a quick tidbit on how not to go and buy the already chopped walnuts. Just hit them with a rolling pin for a few minutes and you'll actually break them up. These didn't break up all the way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit these a little bit more, and I might need to be a little bit heavier. If your bag does open, just hold it with your hand. Now, if you do decide to do these in a food processor, you're going to want to watch how long you do them for. You don't want to over process the walnuts, otherwise you'll have what they call ground walnuts, and that won't work in the chocolate chip cookie recipe that we're going to do. So I never measure out my nuts. We both like nuts. I'm just going to not add the whole bag. I'm just going to add, and I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see. I'm just going to add about that much walnuts. And I would say that was probably maybe half the bag. If you want to add less walnuts, you can add less walnuts. If you want to add more walnuts, you can add more. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our wooden spoon. If you don't have a wooden spoon, metal spoon is fine. We're just going to mix this all up. And the nice thing about bowls that have handles is you can actually handle them. And this is when you can let your kids get in there and help you mix this. This is a lot of fun for them. But you just want to mix your chocolate chips in. And it'll take you a couple of minutes to do. You always want to make sure you mix well, especially at the bottom of the bowl, where your dough is. And I can this. Come on, get off of there. Again, make sure your hands are clean when you're doing this. And that is your perfect chocolate chip dough. Now, what we need to do is we need to place it on our cookie sheets and we need to bake. Like I said, I'm going to be using my gold Williams-Sonoma cookie sheet pans. These are bigger than a standard cookie sheet. Now, there are two ways you can do it. My grandmother used to use a tablespoon to do her chocolate chip cookies. But what I found out is an ice cream scoop works just as well, and you get a little bit bigger of a cookie. So what I do is I will fill it to about that much, and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to move the camera so you can hopefully all see this stuff. And you're just going to drop it on like that. Now, if you're using a bigger cookie sheet or making bigger cookies, you do want to give them ample space. You'll notice I have a lot of space in between these two. They're going to spread out when they're baking. So I'm going to do probably 3 per row, but I can get a lot of cookies on here. I could probably get